I think it's important for young people to get involved in politics for the simple reason that as our country is becoming more diverse, so many of our ancestors have fought for the right for us to be able to vote. So we have to exercise that. And in addition to that, we also have to vote because of the fact that our country and our communities are facing huge challenges and issues. And we need the right people sitting at the table thinking about how they're going to make our communities a better place.
I think it's really important for young people to get involved in voting because voting is your voice. Everything that you do, everything that you are revolves around voting. Who's in power, the laws that are passed, from your everyday life to your community. It's all revolved around voting. It's your voice, why wouldn't you?
Good morning, I'm Alan Branson, Guilford County Commissioner, Vice Chairman, currently serving in my first term, up for re-election in 2016. I think it is very crucial for the young urban professional to get out and vote and have a voice in the education process, health and human services, parks and recreation for the future generations of the city of Greensboro, High Point, and Guilford County. Thank you.
Participation in the election process is very important as a fundamental right as a U.S. citizen. However, few engage in this process due to being uninformed of the election and or the candidates. However, also, voting is a fundamental right. Voting is also a learned behavior. Many families or many citizens vote together as a family. However, there are those who do not understand the importance of the voting process, and this idea is passed on from generation to generation. As a new voter, first you have to register, understand and locate your precinct, determine the impacts of the laws that may impact your family as well as your well-being, understand who you are and what you do for your community. Therefore, it is truly important and very imperative to register as a citizen and also make sure that you vote in each upcoming election.
It goes without saying it's extremely important to be engaged in the election process. From our civics classes, we learn from the Declaration of Independence and Constitution that we have certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We must be engaged in the election process in order to maintain the dignity, the integrity of those inalienable rights. And not only engaged, but highly engaged so that we can make the best decisions possible for the good of all. It is imperative that we make our voices heard at the local, state, and national level. You know, for some people, the right to vote came only after a hard and sometimes bitter struggle. And many people around the world still don't have that right. So make good decisions based on your frame of reference. Vote early or vote November the 8th, but vote.
It is important for young people today to be involved in the election process for many different reasons. One of the most obvious being, as American citizens, it is our duty to be involved in what's going on throughout the world with political happenings and to vote for who we believe is the best candidate for our country. Another obvious reason for me as a female is because 150 years ago, ancestors fought for my right to vote, and I feel as if those efforts should not be forgotten and wasted.
I think it's important to be involved in the election process because we have the freedom to exercise our right to vote. We are not always given a platform to voice our concerns and our opinions, and through voting we are given a voice. Lastly, I would like to say that historically our ancestors as well as women were not always allowed to vote, and now that we are given that opportunity, I feel like I owe that to them to vote.
It's critical for young people to vote in elections, and specifically in elections where the media attention is so focused on the presidential campaign, because really where the decisions that impact our lives the most are made are at the local and state level. It's the General Assembly where decisions are made about how we're going to pay our teachers, how we're going to invest in our schools, what kind of jobs we're going to have here in Guilford County. It's the General Assembly who decides how to invest in the university system to make sure that the UNC system remains North Carolina's jewel, that ensures that we continue to have the best public university system in the United States of America. Also, it's critical and it's key to understand the candidates and campaigns of all of our local races, from county commissioner to school board to city council to our town councils, because those are the boards and those are the people who make the decisions every day that most directly impact our lives. And if we don't stand up for our future, then who will?
Hi, I'm Randy Locke, and I believe that it is important for millennials to vote because we are the generation that will determine how this future is going to look. If we vote, we can determine how we want our education system to be, how we want our prisons to be structured, tax laws, and rights such as gay marriage, the transgender bathroom law, and also with women's health.
I believe that it's extremely important for young people to be engaged in our election process. America is the leading governmental country around the world and is an example to young people, that young people are important. We know that there have been many movements where young people have been at the forefront. We know that in the 60s, it was very important for our colleges and our universities. Those students were at the forefront of that movement of voting rights at that time. So we have seen young people in action, so we know that young people can take the lead, and that those of us that are the adults that are in power, we definitely need to support them. We need to engage them constantly in our democratic process, so that way there is a future America, so that we are continually to be the lead in the democratic process. Young people are important to what America can be and will be for the future.
The reason why you should get involved in the political process is very simple. Your vote counts, and you can make a difference. I would encourage you to listen to what the political candidates have to say. Ask us questions. Have discussions with your friends and family. Treat each other with respect. Put policy ahead of politics, and make the best decision possible. This is our future. If you want to make a difference, you have to vote, and you can't be afraid to express your opinion. Thank you for your consideration. Best wishes. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Right now, young people are building political power in this country. We've seen it all over with the protests going on from California to North Carolina and all over the country. And the way to solidify building this political power is for us young people to get out to the polls and turn out and vote. If we can do that, then we can take all of this energy that's been building through the Black Lives Matter movement, through the Occupy Wall Street movement, and all of these other movements that we've seen grip and grasp America. We can solidify that if we get to the polls and transform what we want to see in our will in the streets to political power up there in the elections. So I need everybody to go out and vote, come out the show of hands, get to know these candidates, make a decision, and put whoever you want to see in office.
During the height of the Vietnam War, when some people were fleeing America to avoid the draft, my father enlisted because it was his duty as an American citizen. Throughout the course of our history, hundreds and thousands of people had made sacrifices so that we could have the freedoms we enjoy today. People have put on the uniform and sacrificed their wealth, their land, their families, and their lives just so that we can exercise our privilege to vote and have freedom here in America. As American citizens, we live in one of the greatest countries this world has ever seen. We have responsibilities that come with that. We have a responsibility to be productive citizens, to be educated, and to vote. Every American citizen should vote because it's your duty.
Why should young people be involved in the electoral process? One reason, it's your right. Not only is it your right, it's your duty. Over 200 years ago, the only people that could be involved in the electoral process were white, male landowners. People died, people sacrificed, people gave everything they had to make sure that you and I could be involved in this process. So now if you're 18 years or older, it is your duty, it is your right to be involved in this process and make your voice heard. Please don't let the people that sacrifice so much down. Be involved in this process.
I personally feel that this could be one of the most influential and important elections that we'll see in our lifetime on the state and federal level. So, if you want to see better things happening around you, you should probably get out there and make an attempt to vote.
It's so important for young people to be involved in this election. You want to make sure that you're a part of these constituencies. Local elections are so important, maybe even beyond the presidency. We're voting for governors, senators, congresspeople, people who are going to create legislation, pass it, or not. So you want to make sure that you have a hand in that.
Why should young people get involved in the voting process? Because we live in the United States of America, the greatest democracy in the whole world. And a democracy can only get better when it hears from all of its voters. That's why it's so important for young people to find out where the candidates stand and then choose the one that most fits your views. So go out there and vote this November.
I think voting is at the core of our democracy. People, through voting, are able to raise their voices, to choose someone who's going to represent their values and beliefs, but more important, someone who's going to fight for their needs. For many years, people have fought for people to have access to voting. Today, many members in our community are not able to vote. And us voting means fighting for those who are not able to vote now and raise their voice.
Hi, I'm Judge David Sherrill. I'm one of your district court judges for Guilford County. The question posed is, why is it important for us to be involved in our election process? Well, for me, that's easy. We have over 60% of Americans not happy with where we are currently. That's either because we think things have gotten too far in one direction and needs to be reeled back in, or we believe that not enough change has been made. And the only way to affect change is to get involved in the process. That's especially important for our young people today, whether it's school, new families, new careers. Things get in the way. We know we have 40, 50, and 60-year-olds involved, but we need our young people involved as well. And that is how we make a difference.
I believe everyone needs to express their voice by voting. It's really important. We need to elect local leaders in North Carolina that support diversity and inclusion and better education and more support for the arts here in North Carolina.
I believe that young people should be involved in the election process because it's our civic duty. I believe that one should give back to all the people who argued, who fought, and even who died for my ability to be here. Therefore, I believe everyone should be involved in the election process.
I believe voting is important because without the vote, we have no voice. And in order to have a voice in policy and to create change, we must vote for who creates our policy.
I think it's important to be engaged in the election process and to vote because it's one of the most impactful and powerful ways that we can use our voice. I work with a lot of young people who think that they don't have enough power or enough clout to be leaders. But the ideals that they're seeing represented are not what they believe. And so I think it's a way that we can show the world that we do have power and we can come together to create a community that we're proud to be a part of.
With a government elected by its citizens that affects every aspect of our lives, voting is the most important right we exercise. Electing officials that share our morals and ideals, especially on the local level, is the best way to keep government accountable. District court judges affect every aspect of life in North Carolina, with decisions that are effective immediately right here in Guilford County. From schools to healthcare to security, we touch the lives of citizens daily. By voting, you're making your voice heard and registering your opinion on how you believe the government should operate.
This thing that we've got in our country called democracy is hard work. It takes an awful lot of effort to keep government working for us. And sometimes, I know, including myself, we can get discouraged. But the essence of this, the hardest thing to do is continuing to be involved. But the easiest thing to do to be involved is to vote. It's going to vote on election day. And oh my gosh, these days we make it even easier. You can go early. In this particular election, starting October 20th, you can go cast your vote early. And so you really have very little excuse for not going and showing up and voting and making your voice heard. Government, democracy is all about choices. It's about competing interests. And you're not even competing if your interests aren't being heard, if your voice isn't being heard, if your vote isn't being cast. And so I would tell you, at the very essence, at the very simplest form, you've got to go vote. But as you take it even further, your voice has got to be heard, your interest has got to be heard. You've got to be showing up at city council meetings, county commission meetings, heck, going to Raleigh and DC, and making sure that the things that you're most interested in, that your voice is heard, to make sure that your interests are being represented, and that this democracy continues to work for you and continues to work for all of us.
I think being involved in the election process is important because it's the one day out of the year when we all get to be the boss. And just like in the business world, if you're the boss, you need to hire the most qualified person you can find. And the only way that you can do that is to get involved and get educated. Because an uneducated vote is just as bad as no vote at all. So go out, get educated, participate, and make your vote count. I'll see you at the polls.
While it's important to vote each and every race on your ballot, I want to ask you to pay special attention and remember the judicial races, such as district court judge. These races may not get as much attention as the president, the governor, senators, things at that level, but they touch individual people's lives in a very direct, personal, and important way. They make decisions about child custody, decisions about abused or neglected children, decisions about whether or not someone's going to go to jail for a period of time. These decisions mean very much to the people who come into our courts, and it's important to have strong judges who will treat people fairly and do a good job. If you have trouble getting information about the judicial races, I'd suggest you look at electncjudges.org. It's a website put together by the Bar Association. It is nonpartisan. It rates all the judges and judicial candidates and can be a good tool for learning about them. Thank you very much for voting.
The reason it's important for our young people to be involved in the democratic process in elections is because you represent the future of your community, wherever you may live. In this case, Greensboro and the wider Guilford County area. It's so important that you're involved because the pathway to stronger communities and a stronger neighborhood, a stronger city, is through involvement. Whether you choose public service or you get involved with a local charity or community organization, please do that. I encourage you to get involved. I've been involved in the political process for a long time, helping support other candidates, and now I've decided that the pathway for me is to run for school board because I believe, like strong communities, the way that we get there is through building up our infrastructure, and that means having strong schools, strong neighborhoods, strong government, and a strong city and county. Thank you very much.
As young professionals, it is important for us to be involved in the election process because we want to make sure that our voices are heard in responding to the fundamental question that we all must answer. And that question is, what kind of world do we want to live in? Indeed, it is through the election process and the election of our politicians that we make the type of world that we want. So not only locally and at the state level, national level, and internationally, being involved in the election process ensures that we are creating the type of world we wish to live in, not only for ourselves, but for future generations to come.
I think it's important to vote because we get to decide what happens in the next generation. When we have kids and grandkids, who we vote for now will affect their future. So that's why I think it's important.
It's important for us to be involved in the election process because as a generation, the generation of change, the generation of innovation, of idealism, we need to ensure that the people in office are invested in us.
Hey, I'm Tom Tellis, Senator from the great state of North Carolina.
I think it's important to be involved in the election process from very early ages so that your voice can be heard. Unless you vote, your voice doesn't really count. We need people to get engaged, understand the issues, regardless of who you vote for. It's important for you to be in that voting booth, work on elections, and have your voice be heard.